Then I'm going to shoot for financial audits, and we'll have a bunch of questions after that. Financial statements. The reports on the financial performance of an organization. Of course, they're reviewed by external auditors, but not just. They're also reviewed by internal audit. However, the focus is different. We're going to look at the external audit focus. When they review financial statements, the controls over the financial statement, they really care that internal controls are tested to ensure that financial statements give a true and fair view. Whereas when an internal auditor looks at financial statements and the whole processes around it, they're going to care more about internal controls. They're going to take, well, an internal view much more than the external auditors. They try to make sure that the risks within the whole process are properly dealt with, properly mitigated, that you would be able to get financial reporting, both management, accounting, that's internal stuff, and your external financial statements, which would have very few problems. So let's try this in an exercise. Okay? So let's try to classify the following roles concerning financial statements. And we have, 3 different statements here, and I don't think it's that complicated, but so who, between executive management, the internal auditor, or the external auditor, would provide assurance that financial statements give a fair representation of the organization in according with generally accepted accounting principles? Now, since you guys are internal auditors and I haven't heard too much about GAAP in the past few months, then you're going to put this squarely with the external auditor. Who can direct and control, to a certain extent, the control environment? That would be executive management. And who can provide assurance to management and the board that risks in the financial reporting process are appropriately addressed? That's squarely with the internal auditor. Let's look at some best practices internal auditors can employ in financial audit engagements. So this is what internal audit will focus on. They'll try to make sure that there might be, proper process maps, since indeed I'd say accounting is typically one of the best structured departments that I've ever seen. It tends to have very clear controls of who does what, and much better workflows than a lot of other, say, marketing, communication departments, which are more art than science. So process maps, a proper documentation of policies that's often required by the GAPs, the generally accepted accounting principles. A review of draft regulatory findings, so your tax filings, your if you have to send your financial statements to the regulator, so you would want to review the filing, also the distribution. So I know that some financial institutions need to properly encode their financial reporting on a monthly basis for the regulator, and that encoding has to be encrypted. Control self-assessments. So, have any of those been done in the department to help improve controls? Is there a follow-up reports on any outstanding items, such as on non-reconciling items? Is there a proper debtors aging? That's kind of a follow-up on who hasn't paid you yet. Is there a quarterly checklist or even monthly of procedures and key controls to actually perform, and maybe a sign-off of who has actually performed those controls in accounting? And standardized control reports. Now, these are only examples. Frankly, your audit program for a audit in a finance department can be very, very long, because a lot of these things are pretty well defined. Just like before concluding on financial audits, to say that external auditors recently have actually been taking a lot more of the role traditionally held by cost accountants or internal auditors, as they've been providing more services on controls. They've been verifying things like data storage, which wasn't traditional, and they're looking at a much larger picture to try to understand the different risks to the production of the financial statements or of going concern. is the organization going to be able to at least last till the next financial period? That's what going concern is. Okay.